Good evening, good morning, good day, good afternoon. What's up? How are you doing wherever you are in the world? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another edition of Frankly Fridays with Helgi and Dan. Helgi, what's up? How are you doing?
Yeah, fine. Really looking forward to the discussion today, especially considering the latest news, the events, and the fact that we are here after 2 weeks, which demonstrates how many things we have to talk about. But at the same time, it's so nice to be here to chat about our club because that's what we love. I'm looking forward also to having our first episode that doesn't include the ownership, let's say, discussion, because it has exhausted us all,
It's
and it's not
yeah, it's
good from
yeah,
a let's say, from a psychological perspective, first and foremost, because personally speaking it affects the daily routine of us and the Chelsea fans, also in other aspects of our everyday life. But yeah, nice to be here and nice to see you again, and hopefully we'll have a brilliant episode.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one thing I wanted to stress that at the beginning of the episode is please not to talk about ownership. It's just exhausting. Even though um, there is an interesting development that I've just seen come up on Twitter now, but something that I'm not really keen to get into. But nevertheless, we're going to chat a couple of things through all sorts. I know we've got a little bit of a schedule to get through, but I think the first thing I want to get out of the way is this Player of the Month debacle. Because, of course, neither Thomas Tuchel nor Kai Havertz won respective Player or Manager of the Month awards, despite the fact that the winner of the Manager of the Month award, Mikel Arteta, lost one game. Arsenal played 4 games in the whole month. They lost one, won three, and managed to secure or consolidate fourth place. Um, but Chelsea played in three different competitions and won all of their games. Um, just begs the question what Chelsea have to do, what Chelsea employees have to do in order to get the recognition that they probably deserve. But anyway, in his press conference, Thomas Tuchel did mention that he really doesn't care too much about that. Um, and yeah, I think that's where I stand on it. Chelsea were not the club that's ever going to win a popularity contest. So I think it's rather immaterial with respect to um, how the season's going on and with everything that we have to deal with at the moment. So who cares really? But what's your perspective on that, Helgi?
Well, generally speaking, I'm not so fond of individual awards, so it's not too big of a deal for me in the sense that you should worry about that. Also, knowing we have other things to worry about, but of course, it surprised me because in I think more than 90% of cases, the managers who have a full, so 100% record, actually collect the Manager of the Month award, and it's a sort of exception. And I don't know on what basis it comes, because as a journalist who asked Tuchel about this kind of surprise of not giving him the award and giving it to Mikel Arteta, um, posed the question very well and said that Arteta wasn't even involved in the Champions League. In the FA Cup, lost one game while we won all our games, including the game in the FA Cup, and also
In the
had
Champions League,
all
yeah.
the noise around us, and he still managed to deliver under these circumstances. So of course it's a surprise whether you see it from a fan perspective or a neutral perspective, but nevertheless isn't too big of a deal, because I think that there will be other opportunities when Thomas will get his Manager of the Month award, and the same applies for Kai, who had very impressive months. And in Thomas' words, as long as the team wins, you couldn't care less for the other stuff, because it's maybe be a sort of BS from the Premier League people who give the award. And if we win the clock back, Jose Mourinho actually didn't win a Manager of the season award when he was at us, even though we dominated the league in his first years in charge. And um, so it isn't something new in this aspect. And in this way, I will let's say it isn't something to worry about in the long term.
Yeah, quite right. It's just nonetheless irritating that Chelsea don't necessarily get the credit they probably deserve. But what you're going to do about that? Big up to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Mohammed with an interesting point there, saying that we should sign Dybala. I think I agree with CFC Central, who I saw tweet something about this. We were talking in a private chat, and he said to me, if we sign Dybala, that means we have three left-footed attacking players. So I think that that's definitely a consideration for the summer, and I think Dybala would come in on enormous wages as well. So that's not something I'm necessarily willing to entertain. But yeah, I think if we did sign Dybala, we'd have what Lukaku, Havertz, and Ziyech and Dybala who are all left-footed.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a bit of a nightmare. And then of course we would have to let go of quite a few others, which would be nonetheless pretty significant. Just quickly, what's your take on that little comment there by Mohammed Helgi? Dybala, yes or no?
No, for the sole not only because of the reason that you mentioned, and it really stands, but also um, uh, years ago when Dybala was actually at his peak and Juventus reached the Champions League final, Dimitar Berbatov gave a very good point. You said that he would struggle physically in the Premier League, and I think that would be the case. And you see many strikers who come as imports from the other leagues and struggle in this aspect to compete one on one for second balls for in let's say situations that they have to use their body against in this kind of nature that Premier League provides. And also Dybala is past his peak, and I am fed up with the signings that we have made about players that have had decreases in their form, but just because they have been good, let's say once upon a time. I'm exaggerating it a bit, but you get my point. So we have to avoid this kind of signings, and I don't really see Dybala as a fit for us.
Quite right, quite right. And I think I certainly agree with you. And I think what is he, 28, 29? It's the wrong time now to be moving to Chelsea. I think, and also the different profile of player. I don't think he fits at Chelsea. I don't know if I've not watched Paulo too much recently, but from what I saw a couple of years ago, he doesn't work hard enough off the ball. He's a little bit lazy. So um, I
I
I
am
don't I don't like the fit, and I think we've got other problems that we need to address before that we look at signing someone like Paulo Dybala, and of course we need to get the ownership uh, situation sorted out before we can even entertain these kinds of conversations. But nonetheless, I just think Paulo Dybala is the wrong move for us at this point.
Yeah, totally agree. I have always reiterated that we need attacking players who score goals rather than prolific attackers. I know that Dybala isn't a number nine, uh, let's say the a classic number nine, but he can't be the profile that we need at the moment. We need people that can similar signings to what Liverpool did. If I can draw a parallel with Jota, with Mane, so people who can. I know that they play a different system compared to us usually, but the point stands in the sense that we should sign attacking players who can score goals and allow the fluidity of the team in the last 20 meters of the pitch. And I don't think Dybala would help in this case.
Yeah, quite right. You're spot on. So transitioning on to maybe our next talking point, what is it that you wanted to have a look at? We'll get into the preview, I think, a bit later in the call. But what did you necessarily want to chat? I see there's some comments in the live chat that we should sign a defender in the transfer window, which I think goes without saying. Um, but what was the next thing that you had on the agenda that you wanted to talk through?
Yeah, we have to talk about the ownership, so we can talk now. It's not a preference because we have to talk about everything's happening now, and everyone in the comment section can propose us topics as it happens every week. Can we move on to with the ownership now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So give me your take.
Um,
I just want to bring up something quickly, if you don't mind.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Let me have a. It's from Liam Toomey on Twitter. So sorry, I've just got to change it something quickly in my settings. But yeah, basically, um, so yeah, sorry, I can't share my screen at the moment. I don't know why. But yeah,
I just found it. So if you are referring to the latest tweet of him, I have found it.
yeah, you found it. If you wouldn't mind just sharing, I think I got to change some preferences on my computer. I don't know why it's changed, but um,
I'm sharing with you at the DM.
yeah. No, I can't share my screen, so you'll have to do it. Like I have to.
No,
If
I'm reading it because I'm not an expert at sharing the screen. I haven't.
there's a little button at the bottom of the screen you can use to share. It just says share with a plus sign, so it's okay.
Um.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
anyway, let's
I
talk.
found.
Yeah, let's
But
talk. Let's talk
nevertheless,
ownership. So
it's something that has to do with if you mean it's about Ricketts having um, the backing of a bank in the US, right?
yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
Um, I think it strengthens the point that Ken Griffin's net worth is such an irrelevant, um, let's say, point of discussion in all what we are saying, or all we are talking about, because somebody with his net worth is double of um Roman Abramovich approximately should, logically speaking, can't need a further assistance from a financial point of view from another bank. So which also indicates the fact that they are in for their own pockets in all this saga, and you can't read it otherwise, because I have seen people on Twitter who have tried to, deliberately or not, it's their opinion, but they have been controversial in the sense of seeing them as, let's say, a family who has the backing of somebody who can invest for the club. But I pointed out in 2 weeks before, when we last were here, that financial power of a prospective owner is an overrated trait in modern football, for the sole reason that you don't know and you don't have any kind of guarantee that he will be willing to spend the money on the team. So, and also, if he is willing to spend the money on the team, how well is he willing to do this? And we mentioned Farad Moshiri as an example of somebody who has spent more than half a billion in 6 years at Everton, and now they are on the brink of relegation. So it is a nonsense to try to, let's say, summarize the whole picture with the net worth of somebody who hasn't even said anything about his plan, who, let's say, supports the family that is rumored to be the front to be the front of this deal. So it's just on the background and as a money supply to them. And this is how I read it. And on top of that, we see a bank trying to help them even more. But what's the point of having a bank to help you when you have one of the richest people in the world behind your back already? So this is just proves my point that they are in for the money, they are in for the stadium rebuild, they are in for their own pockets. So you should stay away from them, irrelevant of the net worth of Ken Griffin, the support of a bank who is being rumored that, as Liam Tommy say, holds the number one position in the US leveraged about buyout loans, and this is a very last thing we need at the moment. So it's a big no, and another proof that we should stay away from them, and hopefully the protest will be free tomorrow.
yeah. This is the thing is, I don't understand what more that there needs to be happen. What more negatives we need to talk about with respect to the Ricketts? You know what the fans? I mean, their background is murky. They've been proven to have made racist comments. They've been, I think, whoever the head of the Ricketts family, I think it's Ken Ricketts, whatever his name is. Um,
Joe.
Joe Ricketts, the head of the dad, the father. He called Muslims his enemies. I mean, they've excluded disabled fans from the Chicago Cubs stadium, so that um, they've been widely now they reportedly using a hedge fund, as you've just said, a hedge fund with a in order to sort of leverage Chelsea, you know, as an asset on which to borrow against, you know. So I mean, there's so many red flags with the Ricketts, and like when you combine the fact that they're now going essentially behind the other bidders' backs, meeting with Bruce Buck and Paul Cannaville, or Bruce Buck is facilitating that, and the Chelsea legend Paul Cannaville. Um, and the fact that there is this widespread distaste for the Ricketts. If they win the bid, then it's clear, it's blatant corruption. I mean, the fact that they have an already established relationship with Rain going into this process. For me, I don't know how they were even considered, given the fact that this is, in my opinion, a conflict of interest. I mean,
Absolutely.
how can you allow a bidding consortium that has a prior relationship with the organization that's handling this process? I mean, surely there's an inherent bias there. I mean, it's totally ridiculous to me. And as Liam Toomey's tweet says there, um, that this they bring in Jeffries, which hold the number one position in U.S. leverage buyout loans. I mean, this is preposterous. I mean, if the Ricketts take charge of Chelsea, I'm comfortable saying this on a stream. I will no longer have any desire to support Chelsea because I'm not going to get behind a club with people like this at the top. There's no way I can. It's totally against my belief system, and I would not. I mean, there's so, as I said, I'm repeating myself, but there's so many red flags, and I just don't even know how it's been allowed to get to this point.
Yeah, where, and even if you let the moral side, let's say you neglect it for a moment, because there may be people who think that we are just focusing on the moral side of the things. And personally, this is one aspect, but the in my opinion, the reason why the No to Rickets campaign consists of both their let's say moral deficiencies and at the same time the ownership deficiencies is because of the situation that the Rain has brought to us now. Because if Rain operated through common sense, they wouldn't have been shortlisted unless the shortlist, the initial shortlist, has just consisted of the highest financial bid offers. So, because we don't even know the details, this is the only thing that excuses Reigns so far, in my opinion. Not in the speed of the process, because they have been horrendous at that, but in terms of the choices they have made. I don't know if they have had a sort of criteria that they will choose only the highest bids to progress to the final stage. But this isn't, and you can't go further than that. Even that is too much for them, both from a football and from a sportive perspective, from a football and for a moral perspective. And this is what I really mean when I say that the outrage of the fans, me included, I'm an international fan. If I were in England, I would be in the protest tomorrow. But it's very understandable to be focused on both directions. It's not hypocrisy, as some people are saying. Why are you defending them when you wanted somebody else? We aren't here to make a moral judgment, in my opinion. We are here to find reasons how to 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 protect our club from a very dangerous situation. And when you are in front of this kind of nature of let's say the situation we have in front of us, you can't make choices about whether to use ownership reasons or moral reasons, because both apply to the pragmatic nature of the campaign, which is keeping them away from the club. So why should we become idealistic now and say you shouldn't speak about the moral stuff because every billionaire isn't clean, and now we should only focus on sporting reasons? I'd be very happy with that if it would work. But Rain aren't making things easy, as you said. So as long as the campaign is successful, as it should be, because you can't see it in any other manner. I'm very fine with the reasons mentioned. So they don't tick any of the boxes. They just are here to you know, the most inappropriate option of all. I'm not trying to classify the bits now in order, because I have seen many people, let's say, torture themselves trying to rank them from 1 to 4. It's not this the idea. It's Borley, who is doubtful in my opinion, because I'm not taking, let's say, the initiative of saying he's perfect and the others aren't. I hope that he will be, but the this is Ball is in my opinion perfect, and the other three are totally inappropriate. So that's the whole picture of it in my opinion, and specifically speaking about the Ricketts is a big no, and this update of the day that they have the bank behind their backs is a massive red flag.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and the thing is, I wish everybody who's going to the protest tomorrow all the best. And if I was able to do so, I, like you said, I would be there. And just a quick one, big up to Glenn in the chat, to Abhijit, to everybody who's contributing. And Abhijit kindly said there, um, if the Ricketts take over, we can switch to golf, and I wouldn't have any problem doing that. Um, but yeah, as I said, the other three, although I don't know as much about their backgrounds, I know it's Martin Broughton, Todd Bowley, and then Stephen Pagliuca, I think, is the other one. Um, they seem to have, they probably have their own skeletons in in their closet, but they seem to be far less problematic than the Ricketts. I mean, the Ricketts stand head and shoulders above the other three as the most problematic bidders. And like you say, if Rain had potentially done their job, they wouldn't be in this conversation. And I think what Rain are doing at this moment is looking at it from a purely financially or financial and economic perspective in the initial phases of the process. Because if this is a moral dilemma, there's no way in hell that the Ricketts make it past the first hurdle. I mean, they've got so many red flags. And this is the thing: is however, if the protests fail, if the statement and the work that the Chelsea Supporters Trust and all the other supporters groups are doing to get rid of or to ensure that the Ricketts are put under a lot of pressure so that their bid fails, if that doesn't work, well, then what can we say? This is clearly a process that has no fan sentiment or no fan input into it, and then that's to me a process and a bid that we have to totally reject, because the fans are at the forefront of any and all thinking in when it comes to Chelsea. And as like Todd Bowley has said, it's all about the fans. You know, fans are front and center. So I think there are clearly, look at Todd Bowley is the bid that I know the best. I mean, he's the one that I've looked into the most. But I think there are benefits as well to Martin Broughton um, and his bid. There's a few benefits with Pagliuca as well. But there are red flags with respect to a lot of the bids. I mean, Pagliuca will violate UEFA rules if he takes over because he owns part of Atalanta, and Martin Broughton and one of his cohorts in the
Josh
consortium,
Harris.
Josh Harris, owns a stake in Crystal Palace, so he would break Premier League rules. And then, of course, you have the Ricketts with their uh, various moral deficiencies. So really, the only bid that seems to be serviceable at the moment is Todd Bowley's bid, and I think that's the one that everybody's getting behind. So to my mind, if Todd Bowley's bid doesn't win, then this is ridiculous, um, because the machinations that all the others have to go through in order for their bids to be realistic are are quite far fetched at this point. Um, but I think Rain throughout this process have sort of sold us fans dreams because they said that this would be a quick process. I expected it to be rather done or close to done by now, or perhaps at least further along. And they seem to have engaged in a separate bidding process now, which then seems to be finalized. Then they'll put forward one name to the government or something for the next stage of the process. But I'm glad that there's uniformity in the chat as well. Everybody seems to say no to Ricketts. And I have not met a single fan, a single Chelsea fan online, anybody chat to in group chats, anybody I know who seems to think that uh, who seems to think that the Ricketts are a sensible Chelsea owner. So I don't know. To me, it's a ridiculous process. Like Mikhail says in the chat, hashtag no to Ricketts. Blast that all over social media if you feel free to. I know I have been, and I'll continue to do so tomorrow. If you are in London, please go to the protest and shout your loudest for us. Um, but yeah, anything to add? I've sort of blathered on a lot. Helgi, what's your take? Anything you want to add on?
Yeah, let's say if I bring it aside, because I think we consumed everything about that, and I don't want to be repetitive. Also, let's say mentally, from a mental perspective, because it's too tough to even let's say repeat yourself in this kind of discussion. But earlier in the week, I wrote a thread in on Twitter about um, how Todd Boehly's consortium could be beneficial to the club in the long term if he is the one that we have, let's say, projected in our minds due to the video interviews and the success that the LA Dodgers have had recently. I don't have a clue about baseball, but I have, let's say, went through informations to know Todd more. In case of that, I just wrote a hypothetical thread about how this could improve our transfer strategy, because I have been massively critical of the way we have operated strategically over the years. Financially, we have been perfect, and this is one of the other reasons to praise Roman, because more often than not, his financial backing has covered a lot of holes in terms of how we scout our players and pull the plug in terms of spending money or on a specific profile. And I want this to change in a positive sense. So I wanted to be a situation where we scout the players in detail. I have never been fond of signing quantity, because you see many people saying that we should, let's say, make an overall of the team. I don't think we really need an overall at the moment. We may need some key changes in attack, but otherwise we, let's say, will be fine, especially if Rudiger stays. And Tuchel said today in the presser that Aspi is expected to stay as well, and for me is a big positive. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I said that we need that experience similarly to Conte keeping JT in 2016-17 season. So it's very important to sign quality, and as long as this quality comes due to a meticulous way of studying the player, including data, including eye test, including let's say a consistent scouting, then it would be very beneficial for club in the long term, because it would be an ignorance, in my opinion, with all due respect, to judge a player from the transfer price. And Mendy and Chilwell signings prove that more than anything else. Mendy was the player who we signed, let's say, without any kind of noise. I don't even remembering him having an announcement video at a time when every other had, in Havertz had, Timo had, Chilwell had, and we were, of course, represented the most exciting profiles at the time. But 1 year and a half later, Mendy's arguably or not the best keeper in the world that you will sign for peanuts in modern football. So if Todd Boehly wins the bid and provides us this kind of way of operating, then we can be very well in the long term. I don't particularly endorse the PSG comparisons, because I have my reservations about them, about the way Liverpool were run in their first 7 or so years of their ownership. But I hope that we will be in safe hands after all of this. And as you said, Todd Boehly at last seems much better than the other options. So that's all we can say About the other three, we don't have too many details, but I'm really pessimistic about them, and I don't really expect to see much, especially after about Bruton. The last thing I will say about this, I read a thread about Ben Jacobs, who was, let's say, going through shortly every profile of the four uh, prospective, let's say so, bidders, and he said about Bruton that he's aiming to balance the books, which is a big no, because you can't. A football club isn't a business firm, and sometimes you need to have some minuses in terms of the financial aspect if it benefits the team in the long term. So balancing the books is equal to penny pinching, in my opinion, and I'm all against it. So boil or bust at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're quite right. Some very good points in the chat. I think Mohammed has been mentioning that it's a an Islamic religious important religious event coming up soon. I think a rundown there. So we wish all the best to those of the Islamic community, and all the best in your fast. Um, unfortunately, I don't know too much about it, so that's as much as I can say. But I wish all of you and the Islamic community all the best in your fast, and yeah, I hope it all goes well. But yeah, Abhijit mentioning there that Jonathan Goldstein is, I believe, a Spurs fan. But as I understand it, like Coach Hiller said in the chat, um, Jonathan Goldstein's role in Broly's consortium is principally as a property developer to provide expertise on the redevelopment of Stamford Bridge. So if he is there just to perform in his role and in his function, and then essentially can fade into the background once that is complete, there's no harm in that, I don't think, because he's not going to sabotage the club simply because he's a fan of another club, one of our rivals. Um, if he's there simply to perform a function, and you need experts like that. And I think having someone with a football knowledge and how to sort of capture the essence of a club um, is important in redeveloping a football stadium, because I know many fans will have nostalgic views on Stamford Bridge, but the fact that Manchester United bring in 76,000 every week, Arsenal are 60,000 plus, Spurs are 60,000, City are 55 plus, Liverpool are 55, getting towards 60 now with the redevelopment of their other stand. We're lagging 20, 30,000 fans behind every match day, and that's so much money that Chelsea could be making um, and need to be making. And aside from that, we could create like a center in London, because it's such a prime location. We could have a stadium that performs multi multiple functions, such as like the new Bernabeu will perform. It'll serve as a venue and hotel and all sorts of things like that. So um, that's a potentially huge revenue stream for Chelsea if they can redevelop Stamford Bridge within the next sort of 5 years. And I think it's imperative in order for in the long term to remain competitive off the pitch that we redevelop Stamford Bridge. I know there are a couple of fans that I've come across on Twitter that would like Stamford Bridge to stay the same and stay as it is, but I think it's naive to that extent, simply because you can't sustain yourself financially with such sort of a medium-sized stadium in comparison to your rivals, because you're always going to be that much further behind. So I think it's imperative that is tackled soon. So I think having a property developer like Jonathan Goldstein on board in Todd Bowley's consortium is a big positive. Um, of course, it's natural that as tribal fans of Chelsea, we go against any allegiances to Spurs, but I think he'll perform in his role pretty well, and that's all we need him to do. We don't need him to be in the director's box wearing a Chelsea scarf and cheering every goal. We need him to help redevelop Stamford Bridge. That's the important thing. So I don't care which team he supports as long as he helps us progress as a club off the field. Um, so Casper L coming here, Brentford fan here, just looking to see what Chelsea fans think. Watched 4 different previews now, and none were about the match at all. Casper, we are getting to that, so please hang around. We'd love to have some Brentford banter from you. We're going to be getting to the preview in the next 5 minutes. We're going to round off our discussion topics now. Um, Helgi, give us a shout. What do you want to round off on now before we dive into the preview?
Yeah, about the two topics melted in one you talked about. First of all, about Jonathan Goldstein. Sentimentally speaking, doesn't feel right for me, but rationally speaking, in case he is only a property developer, as you said, there is no harm. Uh, it wouldn't be the first time because Peter Kenyon was a Man United fan. He was a Man United executive as well, and then he came and is regarded as one of the best, let's say, CEOs or sporting directors we have had um, for many years of the club's history. He did brilliantly in the especially in the first years in charge under Roman's ownership until he left and was replaced by Ron Gurley in 2009. So the thing is that it's not a novelty, and as long as the role is this, and as long as the profiles of three people in the consortium as would be as they are described to us. So Bowley having all the direction of the club in his hand, Goldstein being the second man and focused on the Stamford Bridge development, and Hans-Jörg Wyss being only for the let's say for the financial, for extra finances for the club, then it would be great. And about the stadium, I respect any kind of perspective, whether it's let's say the same or similar to mine, whether it's different or opposite. But personally speaking, I think the stadium can wait for 4 or 5 years because it's a transitional moment for the club, and we need, let's say, guarantees from the new owners, not through words but through actions, that they will put money for the team. They will help the team remain in the, let's say, highest possible level of English and European football, first and foremost on the pitch. And although it raises the brand of the club from a marketing perspective, so a new stadium, I mean, you should think about the consequences that come after it, and the interpretation of the situation is very complex because the other American owners, and even Daniel Levy included, who isn't American but has a similar, let's say, relationship with the fans and with the way he operates at Tottenham, can use this as a way of putting more money inside their pockets, and this is what we want to try to avoid. The Glazers are trying to expand Man United more. For me, this is pointless, although the fan base of Man United is very big as well worldwide. But you can't excuse such an action when the team there, I don't care what they do, they are rivals. But neutrally speaking, I'm saying that it's so illogical to try and focus on giving new long-term contracts to people who, let's say, haven't been at their best. I'm not referring to Bruno specifically, but there is a pattern for them. They offered Solskjaer a new contract after the Europa League final, and they are trying to expand the stadium, which seems illogical. Expenses seem illogical way of running the club, and another way of trying to take money out of it. So this is why I want to be convinced about from the new owners. So they expand the stadium first and foremost. I would never ever want a new stadium from the roots, because it would indirectly confirm to me that they aren't here for the let's say, from to raise the level of the club in a positive way, but they are just to make money. And Stamford Bridge doesn't need, at least from what I see from outside, a completely revamped in this way. So it needs an upgrade and maybe a sort of sophistication in terms of seats and the facade outside. But I think it can wait as long as they have other things to do, and these things have to do with renewing the contract, keeping the club as an example in the eyes of the world on and off the pitch, and also backing Thomas Tuchel with signings because it's a priority now, and this is the best way to win the hearts of the fan base. So for these reasons, I think that the stadium can wait for at least 4 and 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever real. I don't think it was ever realistic that it would happen straight away. But I think that the important thing is that it's a possibility now because it's been on the back burner for a good 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. So I think, I mean, Arsenal got a new stadium 2006. At this rate, Chelsea won't have a new stadium by 2026. So I think to be 20 years behind Arsenal is a little bit extreme. And yes, you'll probably say that Arsenal have not been competitive on the field
Yeah,
as they should have been, which is a valid argument, and I think that's certainly very pertinent. But I think both can go hand in hand. I mean, if you look at Man City, if you look at Liverpool, both have redeveloped their stadiums whilst remaining competitive on the field. So I think the model that we need to strive to is the Man City and Liverpool rather than an Arsenal model. But I certainly think the stadium is an important thing, and it's not one that we should ignore. But like I say, it's not a day one situation. Like as soon as the new owners through the door, we must now start changing the stadium. No, the investment in the men's team, the women's team, the academy to keep Chelsea's teams competitive is the foremost thing. As is the work with the foundation, as is the engagement with the fans. Those are all top priorities. But the stadium is important as well. Um, it needs redevelopment for Chelsea to remain competitive. But anyway, Helgi, I think we've spoken a lot about that. Casper's comment has been up there for a while. So let's give the people what they want, and Mohammed will talk about FPL at the end after we've done our preview. Let's give the people what we want and chat about Brentford. So I just want to talk briefly about the games that we've played against them this season. Um, so of course we this is the first time I think Brentford had been in the top flight for something like 84 years, and then we
yeah,
went to the Brentford Community Stadium and managed to win 1-0 via a very sweet Ben Chilwell strike, and we were under the cosh a lot in that game. I think we faced a ridiculous number of shots, it was like 19 shots or something the whole game, and Mendy saved 3 or 4 of them essentially point blank. Um, and it was really quite a back to the wall win, but one that you get the sense that was sort of a win of a victory, reminiscent of champions at that point. And we all had sort of lofty ambitions at that stage of the season. We had won a few games on the spin, and we were in and around the top of the league. So of course that didn't necessarily pan out, and it's a little bit of a different story for both teams going into this game, simply because Chelsea are looking to perhaps kick on and consolidate third and qualify for the Champions League as a matter of urgency for next season. And Brentford are looking to arrest a little bit of a decline because I think they're teetering a bit nervously in and around the relegation zone, not particularly um, in danger of going down, but nevertheless within a couple of games and a couple of wins by a few teams below them of an uncomfortable kind of situation, which seemed a little bit impossible given the way that they started the league season. But nevertheless, I think that the context of the game at this point of the season is a little bit different to how it was in the beginning of the season because Brentford had a lot of positive momentum. They caught the league by a bit of surprise with their 3-5-2 system, high energy, high pressing, lots of balls into the box, set pieces, winning of second balls, lots of physicality, and impose themselves on the opposition. But I think slowly but surely teams have begun to figure them out and find a bit of space in between their lines and overrun the midfield a little bit, and such that Brentford have begun to concede goals. So I definitely think, unlike the first game, this is slightly less even for me, and I would favour Chelsea, especially with a number of injury returnees. Of course, only Callum Hudson-Odoi and
Chile.
yeah, Ben Chilwell, the match winner from the first game, are out of this game. Otherwise, everybody else is fit. So that's a huge positive for Chelsea. Um, but anyway, without me sort of blathering too much, there we go. I think that's the FA Cup game that we played away. where we won deep into sort of the second half. The EFL Cup quarterfinal game, sorry, that we won there, with of course Pontus Janssen getting the own goal and Jorginho slotting the penalty to win it. That was a little bit of a tough game as well, but I think Chelsea had a lot more control in that game than they did in the first match away in the Premier League. Um, so Helgi, I want to get your take on Brentford. What sort of danger men are you looking out for in the Brentford team? Who are you hoping starts for Chelsea, and how do you see the match going? And everybody in the live chat, drop a prediction. Give us your thoughts on Chelsea Brentford, where you see the game being won and lost, and just maybe a general comment.
Yeah, you said very well that the reverse fixture was, let's say, very tough emotionally speaking, because let's say it is up to now one of the tensest game of the season we have had, due to the surge that Brentford had in the last 30 minutes or so. Um, well, the fact that the two teams come with a completely different, let's say, background at the moment, I think it's important to consider. But we don't know, we don't know how we will, if there is a time to make the predictions very difficult to find, to guess right, in terms of the lineup, is after an international break. And I I think in both our games against Brentford, we come after international breaks. The first one was in October, and this one is now. So it's too tough to predict. I'm hoping for a win, in the sense that we play at home, play, let's say, with a clear intention of clinching that top three spot. And also, having Reese back is a key aspect. When Thomas said he's ready to go, is so crucial, especially against this kind of teams who can create you problems. Also, if they opt to sit back, I don't know whether they will do it or not, but I see it as very crucial to have a player who can unlock defenses more or less on his own, and Reese does it in his own way. Maybe this expression fits more for the technical dribblers that are attackers, or the Hazard profile, but he's very good at contributing to the attack and protecting the defense in that right wing back role, and I hope that he will start tomorrow. Um, I don't see Brentford having anything to worry about for the rest of the season. Mathematically, as you said, they haven't secured the safety, or the, let's say, haven't secured um, Premier League football for next season yet, but it's a very slim chance that they will even risk getting relegated in the last stages of the season, because they are much better, in my opinion, as the teams below them. They are well coached for a team who has had almost a century without playing in the top flight football. So, relatively speaking, this is another aspect. And also, you mentioned that they are a good team in terms of set pieces, in terms of playing in the air. So I hope that the players will be fresh enough tomorrow, also from a physical perspective, because there is a considerable number that haven't played with the international teams, and also another number that has returned earlier, especially Jorginho, for obvious reasons. So I expect a game that will be um, competitive as every Premier League game, but I hope that we will win. I'm not the best in making predictions. Maybe a 2-0 would be appropriate. And the key thing is to have everyone back, as you said, to fight against them for those first and second balls, the set pieces, you said. And personally, I would go, if I had to make finally a lineup prediction, I'm not right in many cases in finding all the 11, but Mendy on goal, in my opinion, I would go with Tony, Thiago, and Christensen ideally, but the rumors have been, let's say, they have increased lately about him, so I don't know whether Thomas would opt to put him on the bench or not. Um, Jorginho came earlier, and I think he will start. Maybe with whether Kanter Kovacic is tough to predict. Maybe will Bingolo, um, Alonso on the left, and Reese on the right. And in attack, I'd like to see Pulisic starting for the fact he comes so late. Nevertheless, it would be very good for him to start because he scored a hat trick from the USA, but I don't expect it due to the jet lag factor that may affect. So I would go with Mount, Ziyech, and Havertz up top as the lineup. So hopefully we'll have a comfortable win, and the protest. This is key. Will give the guys um, another reason to be motivated tomorrow instead of distracting them.
Quite right. Very, very well said. I like the team that you put out there as well. I think I certainly agree with that team. And the one thing that I would anticipate is probably Christensen not starting. I think maybe Aspilicueta might play. And it's very positive news, of course, that Aspi has had his contract extended by a further year. So it looks very likely that he will stay. But if he does go, any it would mean that a transfer fee would have to be recouped for him. Seems to be a similar situation to Olivier Giroud, but I think maybe that, as Thomas Tuchel said in his press conference, very high chance that Aspi stays. So it's a very big positive to have him. And I think in the context of the change of ownership and all the noise that's going on off the pitch, I think having such a wonderful leader there to guide the dressing room, to keep everything calm and to keep everybody sort of in check and to managing through the situation. I think it's a huge positive, and like Glenn says, we'll just call him Dave. So I could definitely see him starting. Um, I think Alonso probably at left back. Did he go to Spain? Did he go for the Spain? I don't think he went to the national team.
Both went because they played against Albania, and I watched the game. Had the friendly.
Okay, both went then. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Okay.
so in the first game at least, Alonso played I think 60 minutes, and us we played the last half an hour. So I don't think they were consumed in the sense that they had, because fortunately they were only friendlies and we didn't have qualifiers, so it was good to. So there was too much place for rotation,
You.
and yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, but I definitely think that the first name on the team sheet should be Reece James, because I think he's such a dangerous outlet from right wing back, and he's proven his abilities there. And we were almost, when we played Burnley away, we were almost transformed with having Reece out wide, and him sort of bamboozling the Burnley defense got us going in that game, and then we just blew them away after that. And I think just the width he provides, the delivery, the quality from out wide, the physicality, the energy, the quality. I think it's abundantly clear that Reece James makes this Chelsea team so much better, and
Uh,
it's such a travesty to me that we didn't have Reece and Ben the whole season, because I think we would have had a totally different season had we had them the whole season. I think we would. I'm not saying that we would be top, but I think we would be a lot closer to Man City and Liverpool, because those funny games where we drew 1-1 against Everton, 1-1 against Brighton, all those silly games where we did made those mistakes. Having them even in defense is a benefit, and I think having them in an attacking sense with the width that they provided, I see us getting the second and third goal in those games to kill off the game. So I think we would certainly be a lot closer to City and Liverpool, and it might have been a three-horse race instead of a two-horse race for the title. But anyway, I can only speculate. But going back to Brentford, from their side, I would expect their man Ivan Toney, who's been in red hot form recently, to give our defenders a little bit of a headache. And I certainly think Anthony Barry will be a key here in the sense that of guarding us against the sort of being vulnerable from second balls and set pieces. And I certainly think with Mendy's commanding presence, I'd like to see him be a bit more positive and come off his line. He does do that quite often, but just to come and claim the first few set pieces to kind of reassert his dominance um, on the Brentford forward line to say, hey, look, I'm here. If you're going to lump balls in the box all day, I'm going to come and catch them every single time. So that's the kind of positivity I want to see and snuff out their main sort of weapon. And but yeah, I would expect Brentford to give a strong performance, and I know Christian Eriksen is one who's always had a good performance at Stamford Bridge, scores some wonderful goals at the stadium. Um, and he's probably one to look out for. He's got world class quality from set piece, so that's certainly one to keep an eye on. Um, but yeah, I would anticipate our midfield being mobile. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kovacic and Kante start, simply because of the mobility. I'm not sure if Brentford, with their three in midfield, might try and overrun Jorginho. Um, because I don't think Jorginho played the first game. I don't think he didn't start the first game. I think it was Kovacic and Kante who played Brentford away
I
in the
think
Premier League.
Loftus-Cheek started against Brentford away.
Say again?
I think Loftus-Cheek started
Last is
at
cheek,
Brentford
yeah.
Community Stadium. I
Yeah.
remember it now, but I'm uh, well. I thought about Jorginho because it's tough to predict in so on the back of the international break. So as long as he had less minutes than the other, we may start. The thing that I hope, and I genuinely hope, and we spoke about it um, 2 weeks ago, it was the fact that I don't want a 3-5-2, mainly because there is a suggestion that we may match their system. There is no need, and it'd be very damaging. I said in the only two games we have proved it from the start. At least it would have been against Man City and Lille, and in both games we really struggled and were overrun in midfield instead of having the control and dictating the tempo. So that's what tomorrow I really want to see, and not only tomorrow, but for the rest of the season at least, I want to see a pivot in our three at the back system. And as you mentioned about Ericsson, because I forgot for a moment, is a great story first and foremost to see him back on a football pitch, see him back for the national team, to see him scoring for the national team. One of those things when people have those situations and people have that steel mentality and they don't give up in any kind of circumstances is such an inspiration for everyone, whether the guy that witnessed or the person that witnesses such a story likes football or not. From a human perspective, is such a motivational, let's say, event to witness. And yeah, really, I really hope that he isn't, let's say, tomorrow at his best shape footballing wise, because of course there is a rivalry on the pitch that prevails, but nevertheless it wouldn't be appropriate to not to talk about him specifically in this aspect, because it's one of those stories that happen once in a lifetime that create all the drama for obvious reasons, and then have this kind of, let's say, happy end in the sense of seeing him back on the pitch and seeing him well again. It's a massive story from a human perspective, so I feel glad to witness it. And yeah, I agree with the point that you made about the midfield, but as I said, it's tough to predict the concrete names, and also the attack is something that remains a question mark at the moment, because of also I don't want Lukaku to start for the reason that he um, let's say had one of the most passive games for us against Brentford in the reverse fixture, was totally isolated and wasn't at his best also in terms of involving himself with the team. You may argue that there are two different realities, and now he may have improved, scored against Middlesbrough, had a good game in the sense of being involved more in the build up and trying to be more active also off the ball. But nevertheless, I won't have a top because he deserves it, and he we need. It's one of those games that, at least principally speaking, is very it needs a profile of a versatile profile like him up top.
4 goals and 1 assist in 3 Premier League games for Kai Havertz. And somehow he didn't win the Player of the Month. As a big Kai Havertz fan, I'm a bit salty about that. So it's a little bit ridiculous, but nevertheless, I think you're right with respect to Kai Havertz. Just his sort of his movements. I think he's improved in his physicality enough to be able to deal with, as Timo Werner would put it, big, huge centre backs in the Brentford backline. Um, but I think Kai has definitely warranted his place. Um, and it's important at this stage of the season to carry momentum and form. Kai played very well for Germany as well, got another goal. Um, I think that makes it something like 5 goals and 1 assist in his last 6 games for club and country or something like that. Um, and nevertheless, yeah, I think it's important that we capture that and we capitalize on that and use it to our advantage against Brentford. Because of course, the difference is this time we're on home soil, so and we will have fans in the stadium, as according to the sort of new government regulations, we'll have home fans in the stadium, so that's pretty cool. And at least we'll be allowed as well to take some away fans to Wembley, I believe, and we'll have fans in the stadium for the Champions League as well. So that's pretty good from that standpoint. Um, but Helgi, any further points you want to add for Brentford? I think we discussed how we think it'll turn out. We gave a little bit of a prediction. From my side, I think I would predict a Chelsea win. But like Glenn says in the comments, that's a very good point with regard to Jorginho. Keen to see what he has in store because Jorginho seems to have this internal knack to be able to deal with adversity very, very well. So, of course, the fact that his country, Italy, have unfortunately been knocked out of the World Cup. We want to harness that negativity and transform it into a positive and use it to I think build momentum for Chelsea and hopefully win a couple more things going into the end of the season. Um, but yeah, with respect to our Brentford preview, I think we rounded it off. Um, be a battle of the Thomases on the bench, Thomas Frank and Thomas Tuchel. So Tuchel got the better of Frank last time, but let's see, and hopefully he does it again. Um, but yeah, I think for our Brentford preview, that's probably about it. There was a comment in the chat to chat about Fantasy Premier League. Helgi, do you partake in Fantasy Premier League?
No, actually, because um, it's tough for me to be to keep myself, let's say, updated with it all the time because it as I have seen from the outside is very addictive, and it may take a lot of time for me in the sense of deciding who to choose, who to captain. So I know the basic rules of the game, but as I said, it's so tough to me to even predict lineups, let alone to predict the right names that will have a good chance. But it's very interesting to see, let's say, the way people decide on their choices. And when, of course, I can get all the deal of satisfaction that it comes after it when you guess it right, especially when it's one of those cases that it's an odd choice or arguable, and then it works. Personally, not maybe from next season on, I will try, but it's tough because at least I think that it takes a lot of your time, and I don't have the benefit of too much time at the moment. So let's if you played, educate me in this aspect because I haven't played it, let's say, myself, and it's just from what I know from the outside.
Yeah, I think we'll get you on it next season. Then we'll make that like a goal of our weekly show to get Helgi into FPL. I'm sitting at the moment, if I pull it up uh, in the background, let me have a look. I'm sitting, there's about 9,081,416 players apparently in the world, and I'm currently sitting 26,032. It's my best ever season so far. I'm aiming for the top 25K. This week I've transferred in Reece James and Vote Weghorst. So those are my two transfers for this week. We'll see how it goes with respect to that. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but I'm hopeful that it will be, and we'll see how things go. But yeah, from an FPL perspective, what I could probably recommend to you is, of course, get Reece James in because he's fit now. He's a very good attacking outlet down Chelsea's right. Burnley have a double game week this week, as do Everton. If you're inclined to get one of those, a player from either of those teams, I would warn you against Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he seems to be a little bit of an injury doubt. Don't know if he'll be able to play both games. And one of the Burnley games is, of course, against Man City, and the other one is a relegation battle against Everton. But yeah, so that's something to bear in mind for your games there. But that's my top tip this week is probably just to get Reece James in. Um, Mo Salah has a good fixture as well. I think I might triple captain him against Watford. So using one of my chips, let's see how that goes. But yeah, a couple of injury doubts. If you are like me, you've got Aaron Ramsdale in goal. He's a bit of an injury doubt, but yeah, it's good to have Premier League football back now. No more, as I like to call them, injury national breaks interrupting the rest of our or punctuating the rest of our season. So it's full steam ahead with Premier League football for the next 2 months. So let's drink it in. Let's give Chelsea the best, and I think uh, I think we'll have a good end to the season. Hopefully, with some more silverware to celebrate at the end of it, and potentially a new positive owner. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the same wish from my side as well. And let's hope for the best. Let's hope the guys carry the momentum they had before the international break on the pitch because they were highly impressive. Um, and also, it's very important to reward them and us at the same time with a new owner. So with a new positive owner, so they everything is back to normality. This kind of daily stress we are enduring, at least personally speaking, must be over as soon as possible. And but it would be worth it if it ends happily enough. It ends with a great owner, somebody who is dedicated to invest for the club and to commit himself to keeping the club a global brand for the present and the future, on and off the pitch, and this is key. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the five substitution rule that will be introduced in the Premier League from next season. There has been a lot of debate about it regarding the let's say conservative nature of English let's say football people, as it has been also in the other aspects, in the tactically speaking through the years. English so the English national team has played completely different to the others. Maybe sometimes it has been isolated from the new ideas, new let's say new applications in different countries, and the five substitution rules was also another case when we adopted late. So that I'm saying we as involved as a fan of an English club, and I personally I think that it's one of those cases when you have which should have happened earlier in the season, because actually it could have avoided many postponements in terms of the games that were played before the new year. And actually we didn't even get a postponement, and it really affected us. And Thomas Tuchel said it around or after or before, I don't really remember, that Wolves game, that the five substitution rule was introduced specifically for the let's do to avoid
For
COVID problem.
COVID, yeah.
And now that the COVID problems had reappeared, why didn't they introduce it immediately again? So it's arguable, and I respect those who keep the stance that the three substitution rule should remain, because they have their reason, especially the bottom 10 teams who think that this could give a formal favor to the top 10 teams because they have so too much quality also on the bench, and can be allowed to refresh as much as half of their initial side. So I get all of that, but the thing is that you have to adapt to the circumstances, and the circumstances have been very damaging for teams that have been hurt with injury and COVID problems. And as long as this was Thomas Tuchel's wish, this is automatically my wish as well, and I hope that it happened. And crucial to that is we having a good transfer window in the market. There is no more inappropriate time than this to talk about transfers, because the club has the ownership staff so to deal with in this kind of in this couple of weeks at least. But it's crucial to have a balanced team, to have a very qualitative bench, so that Thomas can change quality for quality, rather than having, let's say, Jorginho, Kante, and Kovacic on one side, and Barkley and Saul and Loftus-Cheek on the other. So it's another motive to give us the ability to strengthen the bench as well as the first team. So I'm glad it happened, and hope it will help us from in the squad availability from next season.
Quite right. And just to answer Michael Bimko's question here, hope all Chelsea players that went to international duty are all fit to play tomorrow's game. They are. The only ones missing out are Callum Hudson-Odoi, who's picked up a little bit of a niggle, and Ben Chilwell, who's a long-term absentee. So apart from those two, all players are uh, fit and firing. So we should have a full squad to choose from apart from those two. If you want updates about the Chelsea sale, we gave them right at the beginning of the stream. So please take some time to go all the way back there and have a look there. We've been through Chelsea's sale quite extensively. So there's a great chat on that right at the beginning of the stream. We're not going to rehash that, but we will just say that we are very much, both of us, hashtag no to rickets. And there's a protest on there in London tomorrow. So if you are in the vicinity of London, please go and join the Chelsea fans and shout against the rickets if you're so inclined. If not, please share it widely on social media. Continue the positive momentum in the face of these problematic people that we want nothing to do with. Helgi, I think that rounds us off for our show this week. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
The last thing I want to add is comes on the back of what you just said. I'm an international Chelsea fan, and for obvious reasons, I can't be there tomorrow. But I beg for them to do it for us, because it's the club means so much for both local and international fans, and it drives us in our everyday life as equally as everybody who can go at the bridge frequently and support us. And I think this message that I'm trying to give now, and I hope that many people are watching us to let's say to spread it, is the fact is trying to see tomorrow, hoping to see tomorrow a massive protest, and of course a beneficial one to protect the club from this kind of um, adversity, or how can you say, the kind of negative profiles that are trying to get it for their own interest. The club is for the fans, has always been, and we have the strength to keep them away, as far as away as possible from our beloved club, who urges us to do to be as influential as possible, so in our other aspects of life, and also in our let's say everyday support for it and for these colors. So hopefully the protest will be as um, big as possible, as beneficial as possible, as peaceful as possible, and also as clear as possible in our intentions. I'm very happy that it will be comprehensive. So the human and sporting reasons will be involved, because it's very important to have both of it. And hopefully it will lead to a solution that we all want. So hopefully, if you are there, as Dan said, please join the protest and represent us all. Represent yourself first and foremost, and then represent us who can't be there for obvious reasons. And hopefully, it will be beneficial, let's say, uh, organization who will have its success as soon as possible, as we all hope for.
Quite right. Very, very well said there. And as I say, just to reiterate, we are hashtag no to rickets, and we want them as far away from our club as possible. Let them stay in America and continue to own the Chicago Cubs and have nothing to do with Chelsea Football Club. But big up to everybody in the chat. Big up to Michael, Abimka. Big up to Abhijit, to Glenn, to Mikhail, to Mohammed. I'm probably leaving some people out. I do apologize if I am. But big up to everybody in the chat. Please, if you can, smash the like button. Show us some love. But from myself, Dan, and from Helgi, this has been a great show again. We'll catch you again next week, same time, same place. It's been great. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the game tomorrow. Up the Chels.